Previously on Controversy. Hello ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to How to Ruin Your Internet Career in 30 Minutes or Less. And now, the thrilling conclusion. Hello ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to How to Ruin Your Internet Career in 30 Minutes or Less. Part 2. Alright, before we start this again, I'm gonna put in another warning. This will get intense. Maybe even more intense than the last video. So if this subject upsets you in any significant way whatsoever, you're probably not going to enjoy watching this video. Proceed with caution if you're concerned, but still willing to watch. This is another trigger warning, essentially. Cool? Cool. Let's go. So, in the previous video, we discussed a series of games that showed rape or something or other in a way that piqued my interest or caused controversy. But attentive viewers may have felt like there was something missing from the video. I know. I too felt there was something missing when I explicitly said there's something missing at the end of the video. Yes, there's something missing. I said that at the end of the video. Watch the whole thing, you fuck. Anyway, I've saved this for its own video because you can't really put it as part of some measly collection of games that have rape in it. It's something so massive, so notorious, so significant to game controversy that it has to be given its own space, whether you like it or not. So, with that little thing out of the way, let's talk about it. It's been on my radar for a while, and now it's time to finally dissect this thing. Oh. You don't know what the name of the game is? Oh, come on, really? After all this hype, you haven't figured it out? It's so obvious, my dear children. It's so simple. But I guess old Uncle Even just has to explain everything to you. The name of the game is... Oh god, what is it now? Hello? Hey, it's me, future version of yourself from the future. Don't ask why. Listen, I'm calling because I know you had this whole skit plan here where you're gonna bring out the immortal donkey again, and I know you thought it was funny at the time, but trust me, it really isn't, so I saved you some trouble and capped the bastard in the face. Don't worry, he's not dead, he's just unconscious. He's immortal, remember? Anyway, I'm gonna say what he was gonna say and say that you forgot that Battle Raper game Illusion also made, so you gotta talk about that one first before you talk about the other one first. Got that all? Good, I gotta go. Trump sent out another fleet of toupee-wearing capitalistic mechas. Except instead of shooting broken promises, they shoot deportation letters to people it doesn't like. You're welcome. I'll see you on the flip side, tit-face McGee. What just happened? Wait, what did he say? Battle Raper, Battle Raper, Battle Raper, Battle Raper, Battle Raper. Why does that sound so familiar, right? Oh, for fuck's sake. Well, no dancing around this one. I screwed up. Turns out these fellas had a bit more notoriety than I thought. The team behind these two games I'll be discussing today is Illusionsoft, or just Illusion if you don't have time, a Japanese adult video game company. They have quite the library of games in their arsenal besides our two guests. They even dabble in different genres on occasion. But if you're interested to find out how their foray into VR is going, you can look that shit up on your own time. This is a no fun zone, people, and there's no going back. Yay! The first game on our list, the one I forgot about, and most people kinda have too, to be fair, was their premier 1v1 fighting game, Battle Raper. Yep, a fighting game, and a 3D hand-to-hand combat one at that. You have a selection of 4 female characters and 1 male character, and your goal is to beat the shit out of your opponent. As most fighters go, I assume. Some power-ups are thrown into the mix, and you get this grapple mechanic as well, but one of the main gimmicks of the game is how the ladies' clothes fall off as they take damage, a la Akaba's or that one Senran Kagura fighting game. Also, the grapple mechanic involves some of that too, and you can do that as well. All in all, though, it's a pretty standard fighting game. Kinda like if Tekken were made by a bunch of perverts working with a budget of 2 dull pencils and a bag of stale potato chips, but it's not like I'm here to give you the latest tips and tricks in mastering the deep and complex nature of Battle Raper. It's in the heckin' name, you dummy. In addition to the touchy-feely special attack you can pull off, if you play as the male character, you get an exclusive special attack that goes a little farther than touchy-feely. And by that, of course, I mean you stick your unmentionables in their mouth and go ballistic as they cry an endless, unrelenting stream of bittersweet tears. In addition to that, you can also unlock cutscenes and stills where each of the 4 female characters get roped, and there's even a mode that lets you feel them up to your cold heart's content. Perhaps a taste for what's to come, huh? Ooh, yeah, that's a great sentence there. Just give them more ammunition, Evan. Yeah, there's no hope for this one, fellas. Even under the guise of a fighting game, the only purpose rape serves in this thing is to titillate those who find that kind of thing titillating. Of which, once again, there are many. Doesn't make it any less creepy or dumb, but this is yet another example of l'éroge, and rape is commonly used in many éroges for this specific purpose. Although most of the time it seems to just be mixed in with all the consensual sex going on, rather than just being the exclusive kind of sex. Please don't misconstrue what I'm saying here though, I'm just explaining how it is. I'm not saying that the games need to be on the top shelf at Walmart or get bundled with the Switch so that kids can learn how to... So as for the people pissed off about it, well, you actually kinda got me there. The only anger I could find involved a few articles listing the most disgusting video games of all time, or some variation of that. The writers of said articles all unanimously agreed with each other for the first time in gaming journalism history, and stated that this shit sucks ass and anyone who played them should be euthanized. At least that's what I think they're implying. I'm not good at subtlety if you couldn't tell. But most of them are in retrospect, because the game was at least 5 years old by the time those things were written, peculiarly predating the other game on our list today. Trust me, we're getting to it, just wait a little bit longer. However, in case you couldn't get enough of the exciting and often thrilling showpiece that is surely the next best game to be featured in EVO...
I don't know what's going on. Alright.
There's always the sequel, Battle Raper 2, released 3 years afterwards. Like a good sequel would, it has more features than the previous entry, even an actual story mode with an actual plot. It's pretty much your stupidly basic hentai plot, but it's a plot nonetheless. And I bet you're wondering if it's even more rapey too. I hate myself. Calm yourselves, folks. All the sex in this one is 100% consensual. Still looks like it was made on a budget of a half-empty expired jug of chocolate milk, but now you don't have to feel any shame in partaking in some battle raper. Until someone you respect finds out you spent the last 2 weeks of your life researching these games. So with that trash heap out of the way, we're left with the big gun. The one you're all waiting for, the one that's in the title for this video, the one that everyone has talked endlessly about for the past decade. Even my favorite content creator on YouTube did a quick video on it, which had to be cut from the series it was supposed to be featured in because he thought it was so vile.
Why am I trying this hard?
You all know what it is. You all know what it did. And what you're all probably wondering right now is how I can further stall from talking about it. Well, I'm glad you asked. No. Too easy. Too easy. Let's talk about fucking Rapelay. Rapelay is yet another éroge from Illusion. They released to Japanese gamers in 2006 to widespread apathy, until 3 years later, people started seeing copies show up on Amazon. That in and of itself didn't cause a ruckus at all, until someone with power realized it was a thing, and decided the whole world should know too. That someone was someone who summoned here some time ago, and that someone is British Liberal politician Keith Vaz. When it came to his attention, he vowed to bring the game to UK Parliament like he's done with so many, and this ignited a massive furor all across the world. One of the more common areas were the various women's rights groups that were absolutely appalled by this game's existence and seek to rid it from this cruel planet. USA-based Equality Now protested against it by arguing it violated Japan's obligations to the Convention on the Elimination of All Forms of Discrimination Against Women Treaty. It's some massive thing they signed back in 1985. I've never heard of it before researching this, so moving on. Other groups in Australia had similar goals. One group even going as far as to try to get the communications minister to filter out the game in search engines, thus making it inaccessible on the internet. Even a Supreme Court judge used it as an example as to why a Californian law banning sale of violent video games to minors without parental supervision should be upheld. And of course there's tons and tons of articles about the game, and the reactions to such as to be expected. Needless to say, and even though the periods of upset were a bit inconsistent, Rapelay was widely reviled and rejected by society. But there were some that were either unsurprised or even defensive of the game in the midst of its controversy. Even the creators were taken aback by the controversy, as it was given the okay for release in Japan 3 years prior, and was never intended to be sold outside that market. Regardless, it found a way, and Rapelay caused a pretty big mess. As such, the only way I see fit to respond to this mess is by viewing whatever footage of the game is available on the internet and determining just how awful it could possibly be. So that's what I did. And the first thing I'll say about this is, as usual, it seems the people bitching about the game never actually went too far into it. Let me tell you what really goes on in Rapelay. So you play as a sadistic pervert who molests someone on a subway train, you get caught by one of your future victims, and you're subsequently arrested. However, your dad is a super powerful politician with endless amounts of get-out-of-jail-free cards on his personnel, so you get released soon after. After which you decide the best course of action is to register your local SAA and spend the rest of the game learning how to become a better member of society. Oh, sorry, that's not what it says. The script was upside down. I just happened to read that. What you actually do is take revenge on the future victim and her family by stalking and raping them repeatedly until you make them your unwilling sex slaves for life. And that's about as much story as I could pull from the game, because the structure overall is pretty loose. Here's how the gameplay flow works. You stalk one girl, you blow their skirt up on the subway platform, you molest them on the train, and then do your thing as soon as they exit. You do this 3 times for each girl, and then the game just lets you free. It provides you with a variety of scenes, positions, clothing, optional clothing, and more as you rape these girls again and 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 again, occasionally adding in some more elements to mix things up, like getting them pregnant and forcing them to get an abortion, or just a full-on gang rape with 3 other ugly-looking bastards, all until you achieve one of the 2 very situational endings where you get murdered by your captives. And I'm not sure what happens after that, but I assume the game either brings you back to life so you can rape them all over again, or it deletes your save file and tells you to stick a telephone pole up your ass. Okay, I'll be frank. This game is gross and makes me feel gross. There is nothing here except for the rape. It is the center, the core, the outer core, the crust, and the shell of this game. It is rape incarnate. But most importantly, it's a dumb power fantasy that specifically caters to people who get off on the idea of bending people to their whim and forcing them against their will to do awful, awful things, humiliating and dehumanizing them in the process. It clearly brought in more kinds of people than that, but that is its initial purpose. And while I get the idea, as disgusting as it is, and I understand who it's for, it's a hot pile of garbage, and I do not like it one bit. This is pretty much the KZ manager situation all over again, except they're detailing the virtual trauma instead of leaving it up to the imagination. It also has a translation too. Kind of. In any case, I don't support crap like this, he says whilst hosting a platform for it, thus giving it attention and resulting in him unintentionally supporting the game. But even as a game, it genuinely is crap. I don't expect much from the gameplay department when it comes to hentai games because that's not important. All that matters is whether or not the characters look good. But it can't even do that. I know Illusion clearly don't have a big budget for these games, but Rapelay somehow looks worse than Battle Raper. The stills the game uses and dialogue scenes look alright, so I can only assume they spent all the chocolate chip cookies on those, because they sure didn't for the simulation aspects. Not to get personal, but I've seen source-maker pornos that look better than this. Hell, even some of the worst Flash-based hentai are better looking than Rapelay. I'd show footage, but even thinking of doing that could bring the FBI to my door, so you're either going to have to see for yourself or take my word for it. Trust me though, it looks like shit. Oh, not to mention, your age of consent can't fool me, Japan. One of these girls is clearly underage, so yeah, the FBI probably have those red dots on me already. Just gotta stick my head out the window and yell "Ikadakimasu" to seal the deal. But even despite their bewilderment, Illusion decided to withdraw the game from sale and cease production of it for good. Distribution was also halted in Australia thanks to those women's rights groups, and it was also banned in several other countries, like Argentina, China, New Zealand, and even the UK managed to make it illegal to buy, sell, or rent. And as for the people in the US, all of this exciting activity resulted in what looked to be a big W for these groups, and it effectively rid the world of Rapelay forever. Except it didn't. Well, I mean, you can't find copies for it on Amazon or any other sites. At least I think you can. I don't know, maybe PlayAsia might have a copy or two collecting dust in their store. As much as these groups want to claim they completely decimated this game, people uploaded it to various parts of the interwebs, and several gameplay videos exist for anyone not interested in playing it for themselves. Because the thing is, with the existence of the internet, the game will pretty much live on forever. which makes one wonder why even ban it in the first place if it's ultimately that futile. Still, despite Illusion's voluntary withdrawal of the game, Rapelay seemed to have pushed the limit to its breaking point in Japan. While everyone else was trying to prevent the game from getting in the hands of so many innocent lives, the ethics organization of computer software, pretty much the Japanese ESRB specifically for adult games, held an immediate meeting with up to 100 adult game developers and concluded the obvious. Making more of these is going to be more trouble than it's worth. As such, they adopted a new policy and vowed to never again make another rape game. Some developers even went as far to change the names of some of these kinds of games that had already been released to something a little bit more clean. Like, for example, you originally had Slave Maiden's Rape Hell, and now you have Young Girl's Prison. I'm sorry, how is that supposed to be cleaner than the original title? Oh, and also, Slave Maiden's Rape Hell? Is that even a thing? Oh. Well, whatever the case, this policy is more like a promise, since this wasn't going to be policed by anyone but themselves. So honestly, I'd imagine this didn't actually stop games like these from being made after Rapelay, but unless there's another controversy about one, I'm not gonna find that out anytime soon. And as much as I want to end this right now, I just need to touch on one last thing. There's another slightly notable game from Illusion that I haven't touched on yet. It was released a few years after BR and a few years before RP. It's called No, that's seriously what it's called. I emphasize slightly though, because I could only find scraps of information about it. Not a single reputable website talked about it, barely any gameplay footage exists, there wasn't even a Something Awful review of it. But from what I could gather, it has gained a reputation among some. The reason being, in an ironic twist, it offers an interesting commentary about rape in video games, whilst also showcasing some of the most violent rape scenes in video game history. So you know what? I've pretty much exhausted this whole rape in video games thing now, so if these two videos get to 100,000 views each, then I'll do a full-on review of That pretty much means it's ever happening because, as I said, my internet career is essentially over after these two videos, and honestly that's probably for the best. But you know what? That's up to fate. And fate can be a bitch. Okay, let's finish this thing up before I stare too far into the abyss. If you haven't been paying attention to these past two videos, first off, good for you, you probably shouldn't be listening to some idiot like me. And secondly, let's lay out the lesson we all learned today, shall we? While rape in media may seem just like any other trope, it's one that comes with several caveats. If you make something that features rape, and it's only there to exploit the concept and let people with no shame get off on it, or it's just completely unnecessary in general, you're going to draw the ire of many, many angry people. Conversely, if you make something that features rape, and it's done in a way that contributes to the narrative, develops certain characters, or is even so subtle you can barely notice it, you're still probably going to draw the ire of many, many angry people, but once in a while the stars will align and the planets will get busy, and it will be accepted by all. Essentially, this trope is easy to screw up, but it can be done well. You'll probably want to see the last video for examples of that though, because you're sure as hell not going to find them in this one. Alright, that'll do for now, so as per usual, thanks for watching and all that sappy stuff. I'm just gonna go fuck off for the next 5 years or so now, as I usually do. Go watch that new video that Stormname Productions made. He's my favorite content creator on YouTube, and you're all sleeping on him because you have no taste in YouTube shit and just gonna watch stupid YouTubers doing stupid boxing matches and shit. I hate this godforsaken website.